Hey all, so we got a fun one here because we have three different Toad fights. Now, my Toad is not duped, which would speed things up a little bit, but all of these are skill defenders, and that's just what he was built to destroy. Bringing him primarily because of the Nick Fury, the fight after this, but we saw this Mole Man here. Not a whole lot to it besides block damage as you're baiting heavies, and basically we don't care if he does purify any of our poisons because we have that high chance to turn them into passives. Now, of course, out of our, I think that was our first three, only one of them turned into a passive, so Toad always has a certain amount of die rolling to him, but this is going incredibly well. Didn't love blocking that whole combo, but he wasn't really throwing, so I was fine just waiting here. And yep, this is the XL baiting experience. Okay, there he finally goes. Of course, we're never going to get rid of that Fury at this point, because we're not going to get back down to 0 debuffs, which is normally the best thing you can do on a lane like this. But Kingpin is banned, and I needed a path to take in Section 1, so this was nice and simple. Unfortunately, you're going to see a fair amount of that victory screen. But then we head on to Nick Fury here. This fight is likely to be longer than the one on Node. I believe it's 11 right before this, but the one with Heavy Hitter that I've taken a couple times before. It's longer because of the debuff immunity. Your passives don't trigger at all, and it is much more difficult to try and get up to 8 or 9 as you push him into his second life. But it's also easier because even if you push him into his second life and he heals almost entirely, you don't have to worry about Heavy Hitter. So you don't really run out of openings. Basically, the biggest problem with this fight is that I'm probably going to need to use some potions before my third Toad fight. But this one should be really simple. We're going ahead and going for the special ones because they also build prowess and allow us to heal back up, letting us get some of that chip damage back. Again, kind of like with Mole Man, we don't really care that he's going debuff immune on knockdown because we have a decent chance to get those passives. And that's where our damage is coming from. We can easily knock him down, get the Fury. Yeah, this is going really well. Like, you can see where we are. I think at this point I elect to not knock him down any further because we're under 30% and I'm trying to stack poisons. But the thing about Toad that makes this slightly more difficult is that I believe your chance to stack poisons is lower when you're not throwing special ones. And so there's a bit of a tension here, right? Like, we would love to throw special ones so we could stack more poisons, but our max stacks would effectively be lower that way because we would be getting that debuff immune, and it would be much harder to hold on to several of them going into that second life. So it is what it is. We're just trying to get him down. We're taking some block damage. This fight's going fine. We're not worrying about aggression prowess at all. Like, some of these special ones have hurt a little bit into block, but for the most part, we've been pretty good about pushing him to special 2, and then I managed to punish this. I get one poison right at the end there. Definitely not amazing luck here, but thankfully all 4 of our active poisons get turned into passives when he goes into his second life. So for all the challenges of this node, we got very lucky at the end there. Significantly nerfs his healing, which is honestly so ridiculous. And now we're doing decent damage after the special 3. It is unfortunate that the special 3 counts as a knockdown for the purposes of debuff immunity, but apparently not for the protection node. So we didn't get the Fury from that, but now we have it back, taking some block damage here, but it was worth it because we pushed him to the special 2, so we're not eating an unblockable special 1 at 19 charges, which is what could have happened there if we weren't careful, and we finish it off. So definitely took some damage there. I think that was about 30% of my health in block damage, and we are heavily boosted. But it's fine. That's what potions are for. I have been fairly light on them thus far this season, so happy to do that. Very safe fight. So for Hulkling here, you don't need to intercept. You can absolutely do this the slow way and just play Hulkling versus Peni, take this down, and move to your special twos. Like, there is almost nothing she can do to you. You're power burn immune. You can block for days if you have to. You can safely stun, hit her that way. And you don't have to worry about her attack value skyrocketing because of Sadist, because you only have access to one debuff in your entire kit and you don't need to use it. However, I was comfortable going for those. I believe they were light intercepts. I don't know. I did what felt right in the moment, but I was able to put the node on cooldown, I think twice. Yeah, but definitely once, and get a big special 2 off to speed things up. Again, you do not need to do that. I don't even think that going faster makes it safer. That was purely a comfort thing on my part. Hulkling is a very hard counter to Peni on that node. So now we have Torch versus Sasquatch, which, for those of you who are newer to my channel, this used to be one of my signature fights, specifically on the old node 26 with Encroaching Stun. I did Torch versus Sasquatch there, I think literally dozens of times. Unfortunately, as you saw right there, and I think it happens again, yep, you see the knuckle crack twice. Sasquatch is not going for the intercepts. So, as with the other one, we don't really need them. I do get one going there, but I don't need to be risky about this. We can do this the slow way. Like, the longer this fight goes, the more likely he is to go into Wrath of Tanarak. And if you don't remove the protection, he's almost guaranteed to. So there is more pressure to do it here than with Hulkling. That was fun. Love how he sidestepped me there. But you don't need to. Like, Torch is just not going to time out against a Mystic. And so if you are not comfortable playing the intercepts, then make sure you are comfortable surviving against a Sasquatch and Wrath of Tanarak with at least 10 charges, because that's going to be how you might die. But that's really all there is there. So you see, now he finally goes into Wrath. This one is going to take forever. But that right there is why we practice, making sure that we're comfortable punishing the heavy counter. We're still keeping some of those Nova Flames on him. You really want to be on top of the Special 1 decks because it has 100% chance to stun you through block during Wrath. And there we go. Now we're out of Wrath. We should be able to finish the fight pretty cleanly from here. Actually, down to 0 temperature because we haven't been blocking that much. Doesn't happen that often, but every once in a while. Yeah, so we're going into... This is almost a 2-minute fight with Torch versus a Mystic, but that's because of protection, and because Sasquatch is incredibly tanky, and a good placement here, because as you saw from some of those 0 damage numbers earlier in the fight, Sasquatch's native protection mechanics from his rage stacks stack with the protection from the node, and so he can actually get to 100% damage reduction. So just be patient with it. Be prepared for a long fight, even with Torch, and you'll be fine. Moving on to Killmonger here. Toad is not the best Killmonger counter, because he will take reverb. The special 1 does quite a bit of damage. He does still generally feed him a lot of power, because you are applying these debuffs, whether they get purified or not. But the good news is that as long as you don't throw a big special 1 or 2 into reverb, most of your damage is going to come from those poisons, either active or passive. And so you don't really need to worry about dying to reverb. Now you'll notice I threw a special 1 into reverb there, seemingly contradicting my own advice. But the reason I did that is because I had activated that reverb when he was at almost 0 power. Remember that Killmonger's reverb percentage, how much damage he throws back at you, is based on how high his power is when it activates. So you saw that special 1 hurt more because he was almost at a bar, but I was willing to take the hit. The first one we barely felt at all because he had almost no power and therefore almost no reverb. See, that one we also felt, but at this point, after that second one, I was like, okay, he still has protection up. We're not going to hit that hard. I can afford to throw these special ones. I just do not need to worry about reverb. The poisons are doing my work. This is the last fight with Toad. We are easily winning the health race. Just let Toad melt skills the way he is built to do. You also notice that we went a long time without Mighty Charge actually purifying those. That might have worked against us, because you saw when we did get the Intercept and he did dash for a second, we got 6 of those passives and it started doing real work. So yeah, Toad is just amazing for almost all skill champions. Really love him. He was great here. Then we move on to Rintrah. We, of course, no longer have our pre-fight, but we do not need it here. There's no Mighty Charge. This is just... yeah, Rintrah is one of the tankiest mystics out there. He does have high energy resistance, but it's still Torch. And there's no protection like there was on the other one. We just need to be able to do that. That is one of the biggest things that I practiced, was the heavy counter after both his heavy and the special one. Because remember, Rintrah gets dangerous when he gains mystical charges, and if you knock him down, you remove 5. So this is good placement, because Brute Force and Limber makes it harder, or not Brute Force, but Limber and Hard Knock Life makes it harder to get those safe parry heavies, and maybe you don't necessarily want to throw specials all the time, but if you find your openings, there are ways to land heavies against Rintrah with most characters, and he really does not have to be dangerous. You can see that we've taken, I think, a little bit of Brute Force, just some block damage, but we're staying on top of this, and I mean, for one thing, this Rintrah is unduped. I don't think we've really triggered Dex anywhere in here, but that is something that we would have to watch for if he were duped, is triggering Dex while neutralized, because then he would get that power gain. But the thing about this fight is that if you play it the way I've been playing it, you don't really have to trigger Dex. Your heavies are going to make him more likely to throw specials. If you stay close, he throws special ones. I did make a small mistake there. I should have heavy countered that heavy. But even with him going unstoppable, just the fight was won by that point, which is why I got a little bit careless. So yeah, you don't have to take that fight with Torch. Because we already had him in the field, he is one of the easiest, but as long as you know your heavy counters, Rintrah is not that bad. Don't get too scared of him. Anyway, we did end up winning this one, and my colleagues over in Battle Group 2 got their first donut of the season, so huge congrats to them. And until the next one, thanks so much for watching, and take care.